So with the Wayland stuff, where do you even begin to approach that problem? Because there are different ways that, like Cinnamon, for example, they are. I believe they're approaching the Wayland issue by building their applications to work generically on different compositor bases. So you can swap out the compositor it's using. Then you have something like GNOME with Mutter, where Mutter and the tooling above it is all like very tightly, grouped together. Then you have KDE, where you can swap out the compositor, but things are intended to be used with this specific one. So before we even get into the idea of whether it's going to be something like WL Roots based or Mer based or maybe Smithy based, if you want to do Rust stuff, I don't know. Might be that thing you want to do. How do you consider approaching this problem?
That's kind of a hard one, actually.
Mm-hmm.
X11 is obviously deprecated at this point,
Mm-hmm.
but there's quite a few people using it still, and I haven't really decided yet, to be honest, but maintaining two code bases like that's kind of hard. So
Right.
what'll most likely happen is we'll probably deprecate X11 support sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Qt2 has some support for multiple backends because back then you had either X11 or what was called DirectFB for embedded devices.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
that's been reincarnated today as DirectFB2,
Mm-hmm.
which it doesn't support. But yeah, that's kind of a tough one because I know people are going to want to still keep using X11, but that's a legacy broken code base even as it sits.
Mm-hmm.
So the first place to start is Osiris. That's the most bottom layer of everything. Uh, We'll probably start with the 2.5 series, and that will probably be Wayland only.
Okay.
If there's any fixes or security issues, we'll just backport them to 2.4 for those who want to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And then once IDE is ported to Wayland, it's probably going to be Wayland only because we're going to have to rewrite so much code to make that work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. It's just going to be difficult, for me and a couple other guys that work on it. There's just not enough time to go around to maintain
Sure.
both at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So, would you consider having your own compositor for it? Would you want to build off of an existing compositor out there? How would you, or do you just not really know how you're going to approach that yet?
I've got a few ideas, but it's not set in stone yet. Probably kind of see when it comes to it, but most likely what will happen. KWM is the window manager and KDE1. Most likely that will be rewritten to be both the compositor and the window manager. So
Mm-hmm.
probably write our own compositor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. I'm sure that's going to be introducing its own fair share of challenges.
Yeah, I've never written a compositor, so that's going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why another reason why I plan to start with Osiris. So once Osiris can use Wayland as a backend, any application using it besides a window manager should in theory work with Wayland. So that's a start, to learning how that all works and
Mm-hmm.
kind of figure out what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right, so deal with the applications first. That's a much simpler problem. And then deal with the compositor once you've sort of got your head more wrapped around the way that Wayland works.
Pretty much. And as far as I know, that's how like XFCE is actually doing their port as well.
Yeah.
Looking through their roadmap, they did most of the applications first and then went, to the really nasty parts of it later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're coming along pretty well to the best of my knowledge. They've still got a lot of work, and that's sort of the state a lot of these old X11 desktops are in, where I know that Ubuntu wants to get rid of Xorg sometime in the next couple of years, so a lot of them are kind of scrambling to get things done. Budgie, I'm pretty sure is the furthest along. I don't think Budgie's got its full Wayland release done yet. But things like I didn't disconnect again, did I? Did I? Oh my god. What is happening today? Oh. What? This is a great recording.
Seems to have.
Oh, we're back?
There you are.
What is happening today?
I don't know.
What was the last thing you heard?
Oh boy. I forget, to be honest.
Okay, I was talking about Ubuntu wanting to get rid of Xorg, so a lot of the desktops are kind of scrambling to get things ported over to Wayland. Budgie's the furthest along. XFCE, they're doing pretty good on their side. Cinnamon, I believe, has an experimental version. I don't know if Trinity's even trying. I got no idea about Trinity.
My understanding on Trinity, and this is mostly hearsay, reading the mailing lists, and one comment on Reddit. So
Best
to be
source.
taken with a grain of salt. My understanding is there is no current plan port of Wayland, but I could be wrong. That'd be really, it's big enough for me, for them it'd be absolutely massive. My understanding, though, is they're trying to make it play better under X Wayland.
Right.
So you can still use it that way, I guess.
Yeah, that seems to be again, that's sort of the approach that like Cinnamon stuff's taking, where they are not doing their own compositor. They're relying on a compositor that already exists. So if they can at least get their application suite over to Wayland, even if it's just getting to X Wayland, but playing nicely with those Wayland protocols, you're pretty much most of the way there anyway.
So X Wayland actually is a pretty cool tool, and I test my DE and Osiris in it. It's literally an X server sitting on top of Wayland. So for the most part, any application that ran on X before, you could still run in Wayland under X Wayland. You can run a whole window manager, but it's confined to one little square on the screen. It doesn't go to your full screen. That's kind of the drawback there.
Yeah, there's a mode in X Wayland specifically for doing that called rootless mode, where you can you could theoretically just not do anything and just run it on top of Wayland like that. Obviously, it's not intended. You're basically at that point using you're using a regular desktop as a bootloader for your desktop, which is then just running additional desktops for the sake of it. But it is a stopgap there you could do if you really wanted to.
I think there's some possibility there, though, because there are window manager-less compositors like, I think it's called Cage.
Yes.
It's intended for kiosks. I'm not sure that it would really work entirely for a full window manager yet, but, somebody could take that and run with it and possibly make, a full-size X Wayland based off of that.
Well, yeah, there's that, but also there's, from Valve, they have GameScope, the thing they use for making, games run a bit better, dealing with things like having scaling and forcing anti-aliasing, things like that. Like that, the GameScope is a Wayland compositor as well. It's a very, very lightweight one, but it's basically the same concept as Cage, but just not intended for like kiosk usage.
Yeah, I heard a lot about Valve. I didn't know that that was actually a Wayland compositor, though. I didn't know they made it that far yet, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's been like that for a long time. That's they've had it for a couple of years at this point.
I mean, I don't keep up much with gaming, to be honest, but
Fair
that's
enough.
what they're doing is pretty cool,
Yeah, no, that's understandable. That's understandable. You're way too busy trying to port KDE 1 over the past. How many years have you been working on this?
So I started back in roughly 2016, I think. There's been a few years there in there where I've kind of let the project stifle. And I should also say I'm not the only person working on it. There's another guy who's done a lot of work. Keith, he actually did the bulk of the hard work of porting it, and great guy's done a lot of fantastic work. Without him,